Pittsburg Lake is located 20 miles southeast of Salt Lake City, Utah. Although it is only 20 miles away, Pittsburg Lake is located in Mineral Basin, one of the most remote locations in the Wasatch Mountains. To get to the Pittsburg Lake Trailhead, you need to drive 11 miles up American Fork Canyon. The first 7.5 miles are paved and the drive is beautiful. However, due to the popularity of this area, it is best to avoid driving here on weekends, unless you don't mind sharing the canyon with hundreds of other people. After arriving at Tibble Fork Reservoir, leave the pavement and head east. The first couple miles of this old dirt mining road are accessible by car if you are careful, but I highly advise bringing a vehicle with plenty of ground clearance and 4 or all-wheel drive. People who fail to do so risk major damage to their vehicles or the possibility of becoming stranded, as the road becomes much worse. The road is only wide enough for one vehicle in many places along the way, and caution should be taken while passing other vehicles. An accidental fall over the edge of these higher elevations would likely result in serious injury or death. The road levels out 4.5 miles from Tibble Fork Reservoir as you enter Dutchman Flat and arrive at an old ghost town. The Aspinwall Steamship Company of New York City built a smelter at Dutchman Flat in 1871. A town soon grew around the smelter. Between the years of 1871 and 1880, Forest City, Utah was home for 2,000 to 3,000 people. The town included a sawmill, 2 general stores, hotels, houses, a school, and a successful saloon. The American Fork Railroad intended to serve Forest City and the smelter, but the tracks were stopped at Tibble Fork Reservoir because the remaining distance was too steep for the train to climb. But this documentary isn't about Forest City. Continue up the road and make a left to head towards Mineral Basin. You are likely to see a lot of wildlife at this point, unless there are others in the area who have scared the animals back into the trees. You will see the remains of Pacific Mine as you enter Mineral Basin. Spend some time looking around the area and reading the signs at the kiosk. The signs provide some interesting information and history regarding the canyon and the mines in the area. The road after Pacific Mine soon becomes very technical, and great caution should be taken no matter what vehicle you are driving. Only experienced off-road drivers with proper 4-wheel drive vehicles usually continue up the road to the rock garden. But don't worry, the trailhead to Pittsburg Lake is only a short walk across a stream from where the road starts to look impassable. The Pittsburg Lake Trailhead begins 1.91 miles after Forest City. The trail appears to be easy and shaded for the first few hundred feet until you come to the remains of an old collapsed mine. After you round the first corner and start up the first switchback, you quickly realize how steep and difficult the trail becomes. The first half of the trail is covered with loose rocks and dust. This makes it very difficult and slow to ascend, especially since you are gaining almost 1,000 feet of elevation in a half-mile's distance. There are lots of old mines lining the canyon walls and interesting things to see on the trail. Take time to notice your surroundings on your way up, since you will most likely not enjoy anything about this trail on your way down. When you reach this rocky cliff, take comfort in knowing that you have conquered the steepest part of the trail. The going from here on up is considerably easier. The higher meadows are covered with beautiful wildflowers in July after the snow is melted. The flowers usually remain beautiful until a late summer thunderstorm knocks the petals off. Just don't spend too much time standing in the meadows, or any other place for that matter if the wind is not blowing, or you will be eaten alive by mosquitoes and horseflies. After passing through a couple meadows, you arrive at Pittsburg Lake. Pittsburg Lake sits in solitude at 9,430 feet, surrounded by tall cliffs to the north and west, and steep downward slopes to the south and east. There are a few small trout in the lake, but unless you are going to camp here, there are much better things to do and see than fish. An old, large mining cabin still stands at the south rim of the lake. It is surprising how good the condition of this cabin remains today, especially considering that 500 to 700 inches of snow fall here each year. The roof and frame are still perfectly intact, and most of the floorboards still remain and will support the weight of an average adult. According to the date on one of the trusses, this cabin has stood here since at least 1917, but the cabin probably dates back to the later 1800s. The foundation of another large structure also remains, but that structure did not share the same fate as the one still standing. Pittsburg Lake is only 300 feet wide and probably no more than 20 feet deep, but the surroundings make this one of the more beautiful lakes in the Wasatch Mountains. The lake is kept full by the melting snow from above. Water trickles over the high cliffs throughout the summer and fall months, but pours over them in the late spring to create breathtaking waterfalls. All of the water enters Pittsburg Lake through an enormous pile of rocks on the north side of the lake. The only water leaving the lake is a small trickle on the southeast side as it seeps out of the bottom of the lake. It's a long and difficult journey to Pittsburg Lake, but the effort is well worth the results. There are many other interesting things about Pittsburg Lake, but you'll just have to find those out for yourself.